For those of you who don't know David Meerman Scott, David is a visionary marketing strategist, best-selling author, dynamic speaker, known for his pioneering work in the realm of digital marketing and PR. He's the mind behind several influential books, including The New Rules of Marketing and PR. If you haven't read that, you really should. I think it's 9th or 10th edition now, Dave.
9th edition, Jim.
Wow. It's been translated into 29 languages and has become a staple in modern business education. David has spoken on all 7 continents about how businesses can leverage real-time strategies to grow in today's fast-paced, digital-first world. His insights on utilizing AI for content creation and his advocacy for creating genuine human connections in an era of digital chaos make him a leading voice in the marketing industry. His work not only challenges conventional marketing practices, but also offers practical, actionable strategies for companies of all sizes to engage with their audiences in meaningful ways. And I think the only thing I possibly left out in that, David, was your work with Tony Robbins and the Business Mastery courses, which have done extensive work there as well.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything else?
Now you make me feel good there, Jim, with all that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Big fan of your work for a long time, Dave. And I've been wanting
feelings mutual.
I've been wanting to talk to you a long time. Well, for the last 2 years since ChatGPT hit the stands, because there are so many things that you have said over the years, that I've read that you've said over the years, and I'm looking at AI and how it makes a lot of the things that you've been advocating in marketing and PR so much easier, so much more pertinent now in this world. And I'd be interested in, I guess, your overall take of what's happened over the last 2 years in the space and what you've seen, and I guess where you think we're heading over the next 6 months, because I think 12 months is too long.
Yeah. Absolutely transformational. It's super important for everybody who is doing marketing to understand how AI can be applied to marketing. When ChatGPT first appeared, and of course there's lots of other large language models as well, people initially used it to create content, but we always have to remember what data is it using to create that content. And so a lot of people were using just regular old ChatGPT and saying, write me a blog post about B2B marketing or something like that, which was the problem was that's not original content to you. And it's it ends up being super boring because it's just yanking stuff without regard to where the content came from. So very quickly, what people learned is that these tools are much more valuable with our own content. Not. I mean, I use the word stealing, but not using the public internet content, but rather our own content. And as marketers, this is so valuable. I mean, right now we're having this conversation, Jim. Transcribe the conversation, then using an AI tool. Then we take that transcription of that conversation that we're having right now and drop it into another AI tool. You can use ChatGPT for this to summarize our conversation. Then you take that summary and then drop it into Microsoft Word or another word processing software. And then you've got the summary of our discussion as the starting point of a website, a web page, or a blog post. Then you can take some pithy quotes that I know you're going to deliver in a few minutes, Jim, and drop those in there. Then you can run it through ChatGPT or another large language model a second time and say, please come up with a compelling headline for this blog post, come up with the metadata for the search engines, come up with appropriate hashtags. And AI does all of that. And then you can publish that as a blog post or a web page or whatever it might be. And the amount of work required to create that, because of these different AI tools, I mean, transcription used to take take me at least 2 hours to transcribe something like this. And now it's done in a couple of seconds. Yeah. So to create that blog, assuming it goes out on a blog, that blog post, maybe it's 10 minutes of work where it used to be hours and hours of work. Then you can take the blog post and run it through a tool like Lately. I'm on their board, which takes the long form content, so a blog post, and slices it into short form content for LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And then that can schedule those tweets and whatnot to go out. Now, what's super important around this is that it is your own content that you're using, and that's just one use case that I'm talking about here. But what a lot of people who are just jumping into this world end up doing is using other people's content. By that I mean just ChatGPT and the other large language models, using the public internet data that it was trained on, as opposed to your own content.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think we're still seeing a lot of that in social media, where we're just getting these generic AI generated responses that are coming out on places like LinkedIn and those sorts of things. And even though, Google doesn't care about whether your content was AI generated, Google cares about quality content. So if you're doing a blog post or something like that, if you're just using everybody else's content, as you say, and it's just rehashed the same thing without any sort of unique perspectives or insights, then it's not quality content. So Google doesn't care that it's written by AI. It cares that whether it's quality or not, and whether people are going to engage with it and use it.
Well, and the readers will know. The people who are consuming the content will know. And what I do is, when I see something that either someone sends me or I find it or whatever, I go to the bottom, and if it says in conclusion or it says conclusion, it's with almost certainty that it's been created by ChatGPT. Yeah. Because for whatever reason, ChatGPT says in conclusion at the very end. Yeah. And so I think any way that we can apply these tools to our own content becomes super interesting. So another way to do that, which I'm a fan of, is to create your own database and then use an AI engine on top of it. So what I did, Jim, I think you probably find this cool. I think it's cool. Is I took every blog post I've ever written. It was nearly 2,000 blog posts over 20 years. Yes. Dropped all of those into a database. Then I took all of the words of 6 of my most popular marketing books, and dropped those into the same database. It's close to 10 million words. Wow. In this database, all of it created by me. All of it created by me. And then I can use an AI engine over the top of it, just something like a ChatGPT layer over the top of it, but I'm querying my own data. Yeah. So I can literally ask my own brain questions. Yeah. But I can use that to create first drafts of blog posts. I can use that to create first drafts of pitch letters to get me to reply to a speaking engagement inquiry and so on. There's so many different tools, and I'm just a one-person business. Imagine taking every interaction that a salesperson has had with a potential customer in a company that has 100 salespeople, dropping all the audio of those interactions into transcription engines to come up with the transcripts of those conversations, dropping all those conversations into a database, and all of a sudden you can use AI to figure out who's the better salesperson and why. What are the questions that people are asking us? How are we answering those questions? What are the features that people are looking for? And all of these different questions that we can use. Can use that same idea in customer services and so on. Lots and lots of different uses of this technology when you apply it to your own data.
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful. And I think that's one of the opportunities, I think, as well, is using your own data and using the tools. Because one of the things that we identified very, very early on is that ChatGPT and all the models for that matter give really, really bad SEO advice. And the reason they give bad SEO advice is that because they've learned everything about SEO or everything that's on the internet. And there's a lot of bad SEO advice on the internet. And using your own unique perspectives with these tools is where the opportunities lie, because ChatGPT doesn't have that unique perspective that is yours, whatever profession that you might be in. And I think that's very powerful. Yeah.
So imagine taking everything you've ever written or said, drop it into a database, and then you can query yourself, Jim, and learn about SEO. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the first things I did with it was create a custom GPT with just similar to what you did. Just take 20 years worth of videos and upload them and get the transcripts and get the books and all the rest of it. And so if you want to know about SEO, you can go and speak to my custom GPT about SEO.
We did something similar in 2023 with Jim's 20 years worth of video content and his books. The impetus for creating this tool came from the terrible advice most of the AI tools were giving at the time. Even Google's AI tools at one point were suggesting that buying backlinks was a good idea. We used OpenAI's ChatGPT to create a custom GPT, so now anyone can get free SEO advice from us.
And there's so many tools around there now that are free to use and easy to use. Google's Notebook LM, I don't know if you had to play with that, but that's incredible. The way that you can quickly query lots and lots and lots of documents. But you've kept coming to mind over the last 2 years because the work that we've been doing, one of the things that we've never been able to do with our clients is talk to them about getting customer buyer personas put together. And that's one of the things that you talk extensively about in, I think, New Rules of Marketing and PR. And now we've got tools that develop customer buyer personas for our clients. So anything that we create is created through that lens now, which we couldn't have done before. So it's opening up doors for us that, and I guess expertise to us that we would never have ordinarily had before. And it's just so powerful. There's another tool I used the other day, which would create lists of journalists for you as well. It would just scour the internet. And so you can bolt all these things together now. And I think it's giving us skills and abilities that we ordinarily didn't have before. But just getting back to what you were saying about the AI understanding your own voice and those sorts of things, it feels like we're not that far away now from, well, it's happening already, where we're getting the fake telemarketers, the AI telemarketers calling people. How far do you see that going? And what's your feeling generally about those sorts of tools where it's actually an AI voice that's talking to someone on the other end of the phone?
Well, I mean, it already is happening for sure. I'm interested in when my AI voice can talk to the telemarketer, right? So, I have a friend of mine. You might know him, Chris Brogan. So Chris told me this story where he had a telemarketer on the phone, and Chris was bored. It was sort of, I think it might have been a weekend, and telemarketer called him. So he got this guy going for like half an hour. He was selling a new roof, I think was what it was, and it was on and on and on. And then, finally at the end, Chris says, "Well, I live in an apartment. I don't have a roof." But Chris was having that conversation as a human. Imagine the Jim Stewart AI is having a conversation with another AI and stringing it along in some way. I mean, I just think that's a really interesting development. It's already happening.
Yeah, I think that's a service. Talk to my AI. Don't talk to me. Yeah, I think that's and I think we're going to see that not necessarily happening with voice straight away, but certainly with text. Like, I think of all the tools that are out there now for helping us to create content. And there was a great cartoon, if I find it, I'll insert it into the video, where it basically said, I can use AI to take a few words or couple of thoughts and write this 1,000-word article. And the next frame is someone saying, I can take this 1,000-word article and reduce it to a few thoughts. And so I just get and essentially that's what we're doing, with all these tools creating content, and we're using the same tools to tell us about the content. So how long before my email inbox is looking at all those EDMs and is deciding what I get to see, what's important to me, and they've all been created by other AI tools, but the
well, and that's already happening because that's already happening because the AI in whatever the email program you use. I mean, I just use Gmail, and Gmail already has AI built into it, so that it knows that. I mean, it thinks it knows that this is spam and this isn't spam, and it should let this through and not let that through. And then it also wants to then begin generating responses for you. So AI is already built into those conversations.
Yeah, true. So, I mean, I think it's going to, rapidly evolve into a lot more of those sorts of tools. And I'm just wondering, at what point do we take the person out of it, and then we leave our personage on auto drive responding to all these things? What are you seeing are some of the challenges that people talk about when they're trying to engage with AI or use AI, or some of the things that we're seeing is that they don't trust it, it gets things wrong. But to me, it's been a lack of sophistication in how to use the tools more than anything else.
Yeah, I think some of that comes from naive and lack of sophistication is a great term of how people do prompts. If you just go to ChatGPT and say, write me a marketing blog post, it's not gonna be good. Yeah. But if you're very, very skilled at prompting, you can come up with things that are great. Excuse me. I think one of the things I'm encountering now is that the senior level people in organizations, whether it's the CEO, the CFO, the chief marketing officer, the director, the marketing director, all of the more senior people in the companies that I'm having conversations with or I advise are all understanding deeply how these tools can be unbelievably helpful. However, some of the more junior people, not all, but some of them, are either scared because they see these tools and they're saying, oh my gosh, they're going to take my job away. Or they are unwilling to dig into it and understand it so that they can be a champion for the company, frankly. Because if you're a junior marketer, you're in your mid-20s, you've been in the career world for 3 or 4 years. You probably should be worried about your job because many of those tasks that you're doing might be able to be automated by AI. But if you're the person who understands how to automate that by AI, you become incredibly valuable. So I'm on the board of a couple different AI companies, and that's one of the challenges that these companies have, is that the senior people recognize that there's all sorts of opportunities to use AI to become more efficient, to be able to make more money, essentially. But it's the junior people that, for whatever reason, either don't learn, unwilling to learn, or simply too scared about potentially losing a job. And so I think you and me and others need to educate those more junior people that what an amazing career you have ahead of you. I mean, Jim, we're on the tail end of our careers. I mean, at least I am. You're looking pretty fit and healthy right now, but I'm in my 60s now, and so if I were in my 20s now, I was looking at a future that was AI driven, I would want to dig in as deep as possible with this stuff so that I can be an expert and I would be in demand, not only at the company I'm working at now, but potentially other companies if I wanted to move on to a different role or different organization. That's a huge problem right now.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things that I told my own team, because I think that's really important, and I think, yes, definitely there's going to be jobs that are going to go, and we don't have typing pools anymore either, but. Right. no one has stopped typing. You know what I mean?
Well, Jim, I actually disagree a little bit. I don't think jobs are going to go away. Tasks are going to go away. People aren't going to write press releases by sitting in front of a blank Word document anymore. So if your job is writing press releases, you need to figure out how AI can help you, or literally that task will go away. And if that's what you're doing every day, those tasks, then your job will go away. But it's not actually the job goes away. It's that job task that goes away.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's so many things that I liken it to. We never before we had email, we never got any email. Now that's all we deal with. We used to get that memo on the desk or whatever.
Right.
And things change about how we distribute and how we get information. But I think that's very important. Like I told my staff that, treat this as a tool. Anyone can pick up a hammer. What they produce with it is up to how they can use that tool. And this is different. And the way that when you're talking about prompting and those sorts of things, what I've found very useful, and what I tell my team as well, is that if we treat these tools or these instances of using AI as you're briefing a professional about something that you want done, you're going to get a much better response. If you sit down and just say, as you said, if you tell someone to write me a blog post, whereas if you sit down and tell them what you want the blog post to be about and all the rest of it, then that's a good way to think about prompting. It's not some sort of and now even the tools. I would tend to ask the tools themselves to write me a prompt based on all this information, and then get that prompt written for me and said, okay, now feed the back to it. And you're going to get a much better response. Have you come across many people talking about the ethical considerations, like you talked earlier about the copying, the copyright, the way that these models have got all this information? I mean, that certainly seems to be something that's ongoing. I certainly feel if I can detect that an email has been written to me by AI and no thought has been put into it, I kind of get a little bit offended. I hope this email finds you well. I mean, what are some of the ethical things that you're seeing that make you question how we're using the tech?
Yeah, I mean, if you truly are thinking about ethical, there are issues with using artificial intelligence in some ways where it approaches people in an inappropriate way. I'll give you an example. If you're in my country and you were to say to AI, generate an image of a doctor, and it was only generating images of white men, then that would be a problem. My daughter is a doctor. She's a half Japanese woman.
Yeah.
Right. So that can be a problem. Those kinds of things can be problems. I think what you described earlier isn't really so much an ethical problem, but a problem of how are you going to build humanity into a world of AI. And like with LinkedIn now, you can use AI generated comments, and it's brutal. Like it push the button and it says, "Great blog post, thank you very much." And it's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, I know.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that's an ethical problem. That's a problem of not being a clever human. You need to treat people with respect and dignity, and some of that is not doing so.
Yeah, and I think certainly just on the social media side of things, where we're going to see more and more comment spam is what I would call it, regardless of what generates it, coming out. And there's more and more tools that are enabling that right now. And at the end of the day,
it's because the social networks reward engagement. They reward comments. The more comments on a LinkedIn post or a tweet or an Instagram post, whatever, the more comments, the more the social platform shows that article or that post to other people. So the comment spam factories have kind of gotten out of control, and using AI for commenting is getting out of control. And so far, at least, I don't see the social networks figuring out how to clamp down on that. And if you listen to what Zuckerberg and whatnot are saying right now, is they have no interest whatsoever in policing content. I don't know whether the algorithm is going to try to yank AI generated comments that a human didn't even look at out of the tally for how much they show those particular original posts or not, but I kind of hope they do.
Well, I think you make a very good point. In fact, in a lot of ways, they're encouraging the comment spam. And
yeah, they are.
Because of the engagement. And in fact, Meta, I think it was just last week or 2 weeks ago, had to pull their fake agentic users off of Facebook because they actually proposed this as a good thing, that you'll be able to engage with fake AI users on their platform. And I think within about 12 hours or something, they had to pull it because people were just, well, as you say, they were brutal with it. And they could just see it was just fake content generated by these AI bots. Right. I don't know why they thought it would be a good thing. And then we got LinkedIn, where, as you say, you just press the button and it says, yeah, auto-generate an AI comment on this post. Yeah, I think we're already seeing the backlash of that. And
yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And I think the platforms are certainly going to learn from that. What do you think about the role of AI in education now? And I'm not talking just kids growing up in schools and universities and those sorts of things, what's going to happen to them, but also just in business education and upping your skill levels on things.
I mean, I think it's super interesting and super important for all of us to understand how using these tools can be helpful in the way that we learn, and the way that we do research, the way that we go about solving problems. And I'm not sure about the school systems in Oz, but here many of the school systems are outright banning the use of artificial intelligence, which is sort of silly. It's like, imagine, 30 years ago or 40 years ago banning a calculator, or 20 years ago banning a computer. It doesn't make sense to tell students that they can't use a tool that everybody knows is incredibly valuable. So instead, what they ought to be doing is helping students to understand how these tools can be helpful and how they could be dangerous, or not be, and when they're not being used in the proper way, can be harmful to that particular student's learning. So again, the more detailed the prompt is, the more valuable that tool can be. So can we teach prompt engineering in our schools? I think we should. Yeah. But I don't know. I know very, very few schools that are doing so.
It's interesting. Like when we were looking at this in, because it was late 2022, and specifically ChatGPT and DALL-E 3 and those sorts of things, I was thinking that, this is going to be the same as what you said with calculators. I'm going to lose that neuroplasticity of being able to do calculations in my head by, the equivalent's going to happen with these tools. I'm not finding that though. And has it changed the way that you would, for me, it's changed the way I would confront a problem. It's made me break it down into its component parts. I'd be interested to know if it's affected the way that you think about things or the way that you would learn about something.
It's been really, really helpful in my writing. I'm in the process of writing another book right now. It'll be my 13th book. And part of this book has an element of history in it. And I've gotten pretty good at figuring out how to do prompts that get at the kind of micro research that I need to do around some of the historical aspects of this book I'm writing, where if I didn't know how to use artificial intelligence well, it would take a really, really long time if I could even come up with the answer. I mean, what did it mean? I have to go buy books or go to God forbid, go to a library, you know? And good old, plain old Google wasn't working, you know?
Yeah.
And yes, I need to double check and make sure it's right, but I know enough about the topic I'm writing about that the answer that comes out almost always passes the sort of smell test. You know, it looks and feels right. It's not getting anything major wrong in it. So we then apply that idea to, we were talking earlier, to secondary school or university level students. Having that tool really is unbelievably helpful. So those schools that are outright banning these tools, I think, are really making a big mistake.
Yeah. And just to finish off, because I know you've got some other deadlines you've got to get to, but you mentioned Google there, and I'm asking everyone this, is that how has your Google use changed since you've had access to generative AI?
I'm almost always, unless I'm specifically digging in to details, I'm just looking at the summary on the top, the AI generated summary at the top, almost always, rather than clicking on the blue links.
Yeah.
That is absolutely disintermediating traditional SEO, isn't it, Jim?
Oh, most certainly. And it's we're seeing a lot of traffic from Google just drop off a cliff, especially around informational searches, because people don't need to do those informational searches anymore. They can get an answer to the question.
Yeah. The answer is right there at the top.
Yeah, and some of them are just not even using Google to get that now. Like, especially in the area of programming, development, those sorts of areas, those sorts of queries in Google aren't even being done anymore. People just going straight to ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, whatever it might be, to get those answers now. So I think Google's still behind the eight ball a bit, and what still remains to be seen is what's going to happen with their advertising product, because I think advertising in this medium has to change significantly. We're seeing Perplexity start to roll it out. If ChatGPT search rolls it out as well, that's going to be interesting.
That'll be interesting.
But for us, it's the fundamentals don't change. Everything that you've ever written about in any of your books with marketing and PR, those fundamentals stay the same. We've just got more tools to achieve those goals. David,
they do.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything final in passing about what
let's spend 5 minutes on AI agents, because I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for people who understand them. So the idea of having agents that can help you to do things. I'll give you a scenario that I learned about a company doing just a couple days ago. So they have hundreds of salespeople, I think 500 or 600 salespeople. I can't name the company, but prior to implementing AI agent technology within their workflow, what would happen is that a sales lead would come into the company, and then the sales lead would be routed to the right salesperson. And I don't know how they route it, whether it's geographic or alphabetical or just random. I don't know. And it doesn't matter. But a salesperson would then get a sales lead, and it would be a name of a company, a name of a person, a phone number, an email address. Then the salesperson would do 20 minutes to 30 minutes of research. They would go in and they would say, who is this person? They check them out on LinkedIn. Who is the person that reached out to me? What company do they work for? And they would Google that or use another tool to figure out what the company does and what's going on. They would get in their mind then how they want to make the initial approach. And then they would either respond, email, pick up the phone, however they do the selling. Now, using AI agents, that same company, 500 or 600 salespeople, what happens, the sales lead comes in. The agent then figures out who is this person through LinkedIn and a Google search and whatever. Who is this company that this person works for? And then provides details on what the pitch should be based on what it learns. And all of that happens behind the scenes instantaneously. So what appears on that salesperson's desk is not, here's a random name and company, and you have to figure out who they are, but the actual, almost down to the actual script of how they should approach that person to sell that deal. And so that kind of use of AI agents that are deploying the technology behind the scenes for repetitive tasks, like in this case, selling, is really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's we were playing with agents when they first started becoming a thing. It was 2023 now, and where they're at now is just quite incredible. And if I had to explain it to someone, I would say it's like an instance of AI that has tools available to it and can work autonomously based on a goal that it has to achieve.
Yeah.
And I think they're just going to be in everything. They're going to be in our car. They're going to be in software. I mean, we're going to see automatic software upgrades based on user feedback, and the agents are going to do those upgrades based on the user feedback that's been getting it. And I think this concept of, $1 billion, one person $1 billion companies is not that far out of reach when you see some of these things that are being developed. And I think these agents, if your business isn't already looking at these repetitive that possibly could be automated, and with decision making, in that process as well, it can be done now. It's all of a sudden the cost has gone through the floor because we're getting these open source models that we can turn into agents now, and that can be private. And it's just like, what does that do to all the advertising models out there? What does that do? And there's just so many questions, but certainly an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah. Hey, it was great to see you, my friend.
Thanks,
I
David.
wish I
Appreciate
could get myself down to your part of the world. I hope that happens. I don't have any plans right now, but I hope we can do that soon.
All right. Thank you, David. Appreciate your time. Everyone, go and read David's books. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jim. Talk soon.